If you're a builder in the GTA or Hamilton, I'm going to show you how the math on every build has changed. Basically, there's an ability to get an extra 150, 200K per unit added to your bottom line now. And I'm going to show you how this is beneficial for both builders and the buyers, and how it's going to stimulate the current supply of new builds in the market and possibly encourage some more building to happen. I'm going to show you how this looks on paper with real examples in this video, and then at the end, if you stick around, you'll see a real life example of projects that could actually work with this, that are a win-win for builders and for buyers. So looking at the actual math behind this, you're getting a full HST rebate now that basically the province of Ontario and the federal government have released together saying we're on board for this. So you can get up to 130K back on up to $1 million builds. And if you go over $1 million buying detached or something that's like 1.3, it's still capped at 130. But that's huge because before it was a quarter of that, right? We're seeing development charges. So it varies from city to city, but in Toronto, you pay 150K for a detached house. So seeing that cut, just that example alone, you're seeing a 200K savings, right? Now, how does this actually look on paper? So if you're taking 800K townhouse, right? Before the builder would bake in their 90K of HST in there on paper, you're not seeing that back as a buyer, you're paying the full price. And that's not really, the builder's not making any profit on that. That's just, they're passing that on to the government. Now, they can get that back, right? So basically that whole 13%, it can go directly to the buyer. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Maybe the builders will raise their price. So instead of $799, they'll do $830, but then the buyer's still going to see 130K or 100K back, right? So it's still cheaper than the $799 they were paying before. Effectively, you're paying almost 10% less. So you're paying the same price on paper, but with the rebate back, you're paying 10% less. That's huge, right? And with the prices already being compressed, that really gives you a huge incentive to want to buy, especially if this is a time constrained thing. So buyers are probably going to jump at this. Anyone who's on the sidelines, there's a lot of people that just want new builds. They don't like pre-construction, but everybody wants pre-construction or new construction builds, right? Every home buyer, just for peace of mind. Now, if we look at the actual cities, this is just Hamilton's development charges, right? So you'll see the green is basically what it'll look like after the cuts. The blue is where it's at, and the city's already doing like 20% development charges cuts apparently, but it's for a limited time. So with 50% back on a detached build, it's actually had a client that was doing this, and with permit fees and everything, they were seeing 105,000. That's a big problem because if a project, let's say, especially with the market being where it's at right now, things aren't super profitable. If it's like they're only making potentially 120, 130K on a build or something, which is not like a huge amount depending on the costs and timeline. Seeing that 50K back, that's huge, right? Because with all the risks you're taking, you want to see potential to have profit being protected if there's like a further market downturn. Although this will probably help with that, but we'll see how it actually plays out, right? Toronto's even worse, right? Like I said, you're seeing 140K for detached, and they don't have any existing programs for development charges recovery. They milk this. Development charges in Toronto have gone up from, I think it was like 20K 2011 to like, they went up 5-6x, right? Because the market was doing so well, the government was just generating revenue from this. But now there's effectively no builds happening. So they'll see some benefit from this too, technically, right? Now, what the market looks like, just to give you a glance of why this is important, is like we're seeing flat prices. We're seeing the highest days on market in the last 10 years, right? Even in a market like Hamilton, this is similar across the board in Ontario. The average home prices are down year over year. We're basically at like 2020, 2021 prices, depending on the asset class you're looking at. Like condo townhouses, condo apartments are even worse. They're like 2019, 2020 in some cases. Freeholds are good. So there's pent-up demand. We're saying there might be recovery, but it's going to take stuff like this for that to happen. That pent-up demand comes from immigration, which is slowed down, right? But we have a huge amount of supply right now. But that supply is basically, it's not being refreshed, right? All the builds that happen right now that are completed, that's it. There's been a 90% reduction in new construction happening. So you're not going to see new builds come up past 2027, 2028 or now. The whole era of building like that's pretty much done, right? A lot of the bigger developers, and this is from actually talking to people in this space. And if you look at wider headlines, people are just not building. They're not incentivized to until stuff like this comes up, right? And the issue is we have potential of immigration returning, right? So this is from CMHC forecasts. They're saying 2027, 2028. It depends on government policy. It looks like the federal government is working hard to try to encourage more immigration, but it's being reintroduced in a more, I guess, controlled manner and better, honestly. They're not going to have a flood of immigration. So that'll probably bring demand. But then if there's no supply in 2028, there's no more new units coming up like there are now. Because all the new builds from the peak of the market are going to be done 2026, 2027, being released, right? So that's a real problem. Now, who are you going to see really benefit from this? So it depends, right? The winners are going to be obviously first-time home buyers that are on the sidelines waiting. You're going to see a lot of small developers possibly try to jump into this with very like products, kind of doing smaller townhouse build outs. I would say like middle type construction, right? And you don't need a lot of capital for that because it's basically just building desirable products where it's easy for the builder to do, but it's affordable for the buyer. So like freehold townhomes, for example, they're pretty affordable still. People will qualify for them, and with the savings, they can get 100K back, right? A lot of times, like the buyers, depending on how much the developer decides to actually give to the buyer and how much they raise their prices and whatnot. Result though, a lot of the inventory that's resale, like let's even builds that were completed in 24, 25, that basically they can't take advantage of this. They get affected because their prices immediately see downward pressure because buyers can basically get 10% of their purchase price back. So why would they buy those properties now? And owners of those properties, their property becomes less valuable. Pre-cons for condos, they're not. I don't think they're going to see a benefit. They're already kind of gutter right now, but it's going to be even worse for people that already have properties that are newly built but closed. Uh, their prices are down already, but then the condo projects being released now are going to be able to take advantage of this rebate, right? High-rise condos in general, like they're just kind of like dead. Like there's just too much of them. That supply still needs to be absorbed, and we'll see like once that happens how that looks, right? So if people focus on like townhouses, which that's the easiest thing to do, especially in GTA, because finding the right land to build a detached is very tough, and you'd rather take the same lot and per unit you can make the same profit on a townhouse, but you can do more townhouses. You can fit more like on detached lot. You can possibly do 3 townhouses, right? A lot of times. So why wouldn't you just do those 3 rather than build a bigger house where maybe your net margins are the same for like a single townhouse? So you're not going to see a lot of detached builds. You're going to see townhouses. As a result, the older townhouses, they're going to get affected by this, right? And also, like the rebate doesn't help people over $1 million, so we're not like they might not take advantage of it, or they might. I mean, over 1.5, I think they start reducing the rebate, so it doesn't have as much of an effect at higher price points. And then I'll show you like if you're looking at an ideal project, this think something that really makes sense right now is buying, let's say, a single family home lot that has tear down potential. And there's a good amount of these that pop up. You just have to make sure you're getting it at the right price because these are easier to finance than buying just land if you have an existing property. Won't get into specifics, but we have an actual house. It's basically like a purchase, a residential purchase versus a land purchase. Tough to finance. So you can get something like this on a standard lot, and as of right zoning, like you don't have to do crazy hoops to try to get an approval. You can get 3 townhouses built out, depending on your build cost. Right now, I've seen people build, or they say they can build 200, 250 a square foot, like builders, or sometimes even below if it's like really cheaper builder grade. But I think let's say like a more balanced number might be like 50 slightly below. But even if you go with 275 a square foot with all the soft costs, the new considerations for development charges, everything, you know, be pretty profitable on a project like this. These are easier to find. There is demand for these. They're freehold, they're not condos. People like ownership, right? They want their own property, they want land, they don't want to pay condo fees. There's an affordability problem right now, but it's easy for the builder to build as well, and super expensive. Like you're basically just like rebuilds across the board. And they're all going to have multiple adjoining walls, you know, landscaping, everything just becomes easier with these townhouse builds, right? Now, the actual profitability on these, you can actually do pretty decent numbers because you're essentially going to have this built out for like 1.85. In Hamilton, right now, new builds, we're seeing even like stuff built in the last year or two, similar products, they'll go for like 700s, right? But now you can get that same 750 sale price, make your money as a builder, but the buyer can essentially get a rebate and effectively get a price of 650 after their rebate, right? So that same 50 now they're 750, they're getting for 652. Now, would it still make sense if maybe the builder's charging 785, 800 for the same thing? They're making a bit more money, and now the buyer's effective cost is still 10-15% lower than it was a year ago, but you know, getting a little bit more on paper, but they're getting a big rebate back, and then the builder's making a little more money. So that's probably what we're actually going to see happen, and you can take advantage of stuff like that. And depending on your exact cost, you could probably make like $5 million on projects like these, right? Or less depending on your build cost and exact acquisition price and whatnot. The interesting thing too that I noticed is same type of project you can do in a city like Mississauga where it's huge demand for freehold, right? Because it's like a lot of people are priced out. They just can't get in. Looking at freehold townhouses right now, like the Heartland area in Mississauga, if you're familiar with it, and like still moving like, you know, 900K, depending on the exact age. and it's basically like 20, 40-year-old builds, right? But now with this new situation, you can resell at 900K as a builder, make similarly, like get a tear down, below something similar with a decent sized lot, or maybe even get a double lot. Like I've found double lots like that for our clients where we're paying 20% more versus a single lot, but now you can do 2x this, right? You do like 6 houses, but you can do like $500,000 project like that. Right? Thing is, people like focus on the actual person that's going to pay you the money for this. This is where you actually win because they can actually get the same product now at the price they were getting old 20-year-old houses for before in the same city, right? So I think that's where we're going to see kind of in the middle. Builders are going to profit a little more, buyers are going to get a huge discount, and we're going to see some stimulated activity in these sectors. There's not like you're going to see a wild amount of people doing this because you still have to locate the right deals to make this happen. Now, timelines wise, there is like a little bit of a situation because you got to make sure that the purchase agreements, like you're creating a pre-construction project or something, the contract from the buyer has to be signed before 2027 end of March, right? That's when it's applicable until. The development charges thing kind of, some cities, I think Mississauga actually renewed to 2027. I could be wrong about that, but vary from city to city how they do it. But I think it'll, like, I have a feeling this thing's going to go possibly even past the 2027 deadline, even this HST rebate thing, if it works out well, depending on how much supply is left over. But like I said, all this supply right now is going to be done. So it's not like if a lot of this gets absorbed, there's a lot left, and it doesn't make sense for the government to do this that much longer, right? So I would try to take advantage of this. Now, if you're looking for real deals like what I just showed you here, reach out to me. That's my website, my Instagram, and then you're getting this probably through an email, but if not, I'll leave my email as well. And just reach out to me. I underwrite deals like this, right? Those numbers you see, those are like deals that I've looked at where there's possibilities to make things happen and actually do build outs. And I've worked with multiple clients already that are in the development space that are doing build outs. And I'm in space myself as well, right? Like I'm very well versed in construction, primarily dealing with value add plays, whether it's conversion projects, infill development, or flips. So I can definitely find you something if you're looking in this space. Reach out to me and we can kind of have a discussion. Yeah, I think this is a solid opportunity. There is a bit of a time constraint on it, but I think with the right buy, you can do really well on these. So reach out to me and then we can maybe get on a call and discuss more.